nobody there. Sky is falling, metal rain, chaos mornings, no one's sane. Crumbling towers, streets in flames, forgotten heroes, who knows their names. Broken futures, shattered dreams, end of times ain't what it seems.
Hello friends, this is Sam Cheney reporting for Weaponized News. Today is May 27th, 2026. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. We have quite a bit to get to. Today. There was a big cabinet meeting with Trump and his administration. We're going to cover all of that. Trump admits once again they're actors. They're from Central Casting. So keep that in mind. They do love war. So I'm going to go over all those details with you, for you today. We've got a little bit of public health news. They're dropping a bunch of mosquitoes there in Florida. Take a look at that report. They're euthanizing people in the MAID program up there in Canada. Take a look at that. We have technocracy news. Anti-tech extremism. U.S. law enforcement's a warning about that. We're going to take a look at those reports. We have economic news, a bunch of geopolitical news. The massacre in Lebanon is intensifying. And the genocide in Gaza is continuing. As I see people coming online right now, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Now I have a big, I got a link. We probably can't talk much about it, but I'll give you the link to do your own research with a whole lot of information about a certain issue that we're not allowed to talk about. So we'll just you'll have to wait till the end of the show, and I'll give you that link, and you can go do your own research about this very important issue. People coming online now, welcome. All right, let's get to on this day in history. We had quite a few events on this day in history. On this day of May 27th, we go back to the year 1529, and they were noticing something wasn't quite right. Well, I'll tell you, 30 aardvarks of posing Hungary, charged with blood ritual and burned at the stake. So they were noticing that there's something not quite right about these blood rituals that aardvarks are partaking in, you see, in 1529 on this day. On this day in 1660, Denmark and Sweden signed the Treaty of Copenhagen, ending the Second Northern War. On this day in 1692, the Salem witch trials. William Phillip, governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony, authorizes a special court of Oyer and Termeyer to hear and determine to administer Salem witch trials. 1703 on this day, we saw the founding of St. Petersburg, or otherwise known as Leningrad, founded on this day by Russian Tsar Peter the Great, 1703. 1907, we saw bubonic plague break out in San Francisco. On this day in 1930, Richard Drew invents masking tape. On this day in 1933, we saw a Federal Securities Act signed into law here in America. On this day in 1935, Supreme Court declares FDR's National Recovery Act unconstitutional. On this day in 1941, FDR declares a state of emergency after a German U-boat sinks the American-flagged SS Robin Moore. On this day in 1977, the Sex Pistols release God Save the Queen. 1981, on this day, John Hinckley Jr. attempts suicide by overdosing on Tylenol pain relief medication after his attempted assassination of President Ronald Reagan on March 3rd, 1981. 1994, on this day, Alexander Solzhenitsyn returns to Russia after 20 years in exile. And I'm going to take this opportunity to plug Weaponized News shirt here. You can go to weaponizednews.com/shop and get yourself a Alexander Solzhenitsyn shirt. We know they're lying. They know they are lying. They know we know they are lying. We know they know we know they are lying, but they are still lying. All-time classic quote there from Alexander Solzhenitsyn. There, put on a t-shirt for you at weaponizednews.com/shop. Continuing here. Sadly, Superman was paralyzed on this day. In 1995, actor Christopher Reeve is paralyzed from the neck down after falling from his horse in a riding competition in Culpeper, Virginia. 1998, on this day, Michael Fortier is sentenced to 12 years in prison and fined $200,000 for failing to warn authorities about the plot to bomb Oklahoma City. Feds blew up Oklahoma City. They already knew. And on this day in 2020, we take a look back at the bat times. America's bat death toll passes 100,000. Data provided by Johns Hopkins, equal to the number of U.S. servicemen and women killed in Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan put together. Remember the good bat times in the corner of your television? I guess it would be over here. They had the case count, the death count. Remember all those fun times? 2020 on this day. And then let's take a look at our civil liberties history. We had a few civil liberty issues of note. On this day in 1929, freedom for the thought we hate. Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes on this day expressed the view that became one of the most famous in the history of the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects freedom for the thought we hate. The case decided on this day involved Rosik Schwimmer, a Hungarian immigrant and pacifist who refused to take the oath of citizenship because she felt the wording would commit her to taking up arms in violation of her beliefs. The 1906 Naturalization Act required applicants for citizenship to swear that they, quote, will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and bear true faith and allegiance to the same. Schwimmer defined the word defend to mean that she would be required to take up arms in case of war. The Supreme Court rejected her appeal in Schwimmer versus United States. In his dissent, Justice Holmes defended her right to refuse and wrote the now famous phrase, defending freedom for the thought we hate. On this day in 1968, First Amendment does not protect burning draft card, rules Supreme Court. In the case of O'Brien versus the United States, the Supreme Court on this day ruled that burning a draft card as a form of protest was not protected by the First Amendment. On this day in 1977, Senator Proxmire gives one of 3,000 speeches urging adoption of the Genocide Convention. It took the U.S. Senate 4 decades to ratify the UN Genocide Convention. Between 1967 and 1986, Senator William Proxmire gave over 3,000 speeches on the Senate floor urging the ratification of the convention. He delivered one of those speeches on this day. His historic efforts are believed to be unprecedented in U.S. congressional history. And on this day in 1997, then President Bill Clinton, the president is not above the law, Bill Clinton edition. President Bill Clinton tried to avoid going to trial over Paul Jones' sexual harassment allegations, claiming it would interfere with his duties as president. The Supreme Court in Clinton versus Jones rejected his claim on this day. The decision reaffirmed the principle established by the Supreme Court in President Richard Nixon's Watergate tapes case, that the president is not above the law. I think the president's still probably above the law, but that's what they ruled there. On May 23rd, 2018, a federal district court ruled that President Donald Trump had violated the First Amendment when he blocked critics of his presidency from accessing his Twitter account. The judge held that his Twitter account was a public forum. On several occasions, while President Trump made extraordinary claims of presidential power, as of mid-2020, with the presidential election only 5 months away, none of his claims had been tested in the Supreme Court. And then here's our segue to the news. PBS Frontline compiles a powerful highlight reel of Trump pledging no new wars on the campaign trail.
And I'm proud to be the first president in decades who started no new wars. That's very good. No new wars. Instead, I brought our troops back home. No new wars.
As Donald Trump campaigned for his second term, a promise.
No new wars. They said his personality will create wars. I said, no, my personality is going to keep us out of wars. Look at him, listen to him. He's going to start a war. Listen to his rhetoric. They thought I was going to start a war. Let me tell you something. I'm going to stop World War III.
And at his inauguration, he vowed to keep his promise.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier.
Inside the White House, he formed a team of loyalists. They'd help chart a different direction than the one he'd promised.
We're now on day 89 of the Iran war. From Trump's cabinet meeting earlier today.
If we didn't hit them with the B-2 bombers, Iran would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks from that date because they were ready to go. And if they had a nuclear weapon, it would have been used already. It also would have been used had I not terminated the Obama deal, the Iran nuclear deal, as we call it. That was in my first term. Had I not terminated that, they would have had a nuclear weapon a long time ago. I would say it was a guarantee that it would have been used. And it would have blown up Israel. It would have blown up the entire Middle East. And that's never going to happen. Yeah, please.
Mr. President,
Told you right there. The White House posts this nonsense. CNN, Iran's Navy is strong. Meanwhile, in the bottom of the ocean. Trump's posting that on his True Social. The White House is reposting it. Little Marco Rubio said, it better than anyone, you can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. They would use it instantly. They're keeping that talking point and narrative going, even though it's been thoroughly debunked. Again, Iran claims that, Trump claims that Iran's Navy's gone, but yet they're shooting at us in the Strait of Hormuz. Funny how that works. Here's Trump threatening to bomb our ally Oman there if they don't get in line.
Mr. President, Iran wants control of the Strait of Hormuz. Would you accept a short-term deal that allows Iran and Oman to control the strait? And would they have to open it immediately, or would you be open to that happening over a period of time?
No, the strait's going to be open to everybody.
And who would control
It's
it?
international waters. Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine.
Well, just casually threatened to blow up Oman there. Trump on Iran said, we can make a deal right now, but maybe not a great deal. And if it's not a great deal, we're not making it. Laughable here. Little Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, says diplomacy is always the first option, and we will continue to work on that. Iran and these people in charge of Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Secretary of War says we negotiate with bombs. Little Pete Hegseth, we're going to get to him. Oh, right here. Trump says he doesn't care about the midterms because Republicans are going to get a big loss in the midterms because of the economy, amongst other issues here for the American people.
The money has no value. Their whole economic system is broken down. They thought they were going to outweight me. You know, we'll outweight him. He's got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms. Look what happened last night. That was the prelude to the midterms. People understand it. They know that, very simple, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I'm doing
Already debunked by our own intelligence community and the State Department for that matter. So, yeah, the MAGA did good in Republican primaries. But this is not none of these primaries are the general election where they're going to run up against the Democrats. Trump says this is regime change. Funny, Khomeini's still the supreme leader over there in Iran.
really is regime change. You know, we didn't set out for regime change, but by the fact that we're dealing with a totally different group of people than we were at the beginning. And frankly, I find them to be much more reasonable. I actually find them to be smarter, but I find them to be much more reasonable. This is regime change. One regime is gone, another regime is gone, we're dealing with the third. Pieces of them, because some of them are gone too. And I find
Khomeini's still in charge. The mullah regime is still in charge. What regime change is he talking about? And yeah, we're in bad shape here when John Bolton is the adult in the room. We're in real bad shape.
Now decision-making consists of Trump sitting behind his resolute desk in the Oval Office, 5 or 6 people in a semicircle in front of him, and he says, I think we'd like to do X. That's when Pete Hegseth says, yes, sir, we'll do that. That's decision-making.
We're in bad shape. Here's an all-time classic. Trump admits, well, don't forget, Trump's a reality TV show star in the WWE Wrestling Hall of Fame. Pete Hegseth is a former Fox News broadcaster. And so here's Trump telling you, central casting.
Blanche, who's doing fantastically, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, another one. I mean, we have great people. And the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, central casting. He loves war. I don't like it. He's a good man, that one.
They get a chuckle out of that. He loves war. Like, talk about disconnected from reality here. So there was a report that maybe we're going to have a peace deal that was shot down by the White House as fake news. Iran says it will only sign a peace deal with the U.S. if $24 billion in frozen Iranian assets are released. Tehran wants $12 billion paid immediately when a deal is announced, with the remaining amount transferred within 60 days. The money comes from oil and gas revenues blocked under U.S. sanctions and held in countries including South Korea, Qatar, Iraq, and Germany. The demand has become the main obstacle in negotiations to end the Iran war. Trump allies oppose the move, arguing it would reward Iran. That's a report out of the UK Telegraph. Iran warns of expanding Western Aardvark land hybrid war after failure of direct military confrontation. Iran's intelligence ministry issued a detailed warning accusing hostile powers of shifting toward, quote, hybrid warfare after failing to achieve their objectives through direct military confrontation with the Islamic Republic. The ministry said adversaries are now focusing on psychological warfare, media operations, economic pressure, cyber attacks, and efforts to fuel social unrest and public dissatisfaction through sanctions, shortages, price hikes, and foreign Persian language media outlets. Tehran also warned of attempts to inflate ethnic and sectarian tensions in order to undermine national unity. According to the statement, intelligence assessments indicate that armed groups linked to, quote, Zionist networks are being used to carry out cross-border attacks, particularly in Iran's northwest and southeast, while foreign-backed operatives continue attempting sabotage and terrorist attacks inside the country. The ministry further accused hostile actors of smuggling weapons, ammunition, and satellite communication tools into Iran to support destabilization efforts, stressing that any involvement in espionage, sabotage, sectarian incitement, cyber operations or cooperation with hostile media will be dealt with under Iranian law. That's a report out of the Cradle. And then Jason Bassler here, top 10 greatest hits, Trump quotes. I don't think of the American people at all. I don't think about the American people at all. I'm polling at 99% in Aardvark land right now. I am the smartest guy you are ever going to meet. I was saved by God to make America great again. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters. Windmills cause cancer. If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know, it doesn't really matter what the media write as long as you've got a young and beautiful piece of arse. I like taking the guns early, take the guns first, go through due process second. Mexicans are bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Top 10 quotes from Trump there. New analysis says the U.S. may need 3 to 5 years to rebuild key missile stockpiles heavily used in the Iran war, raising concerns about readiness of a possible conflict with China. The report says studies of Tomahawk cruise missiles, Patriot interceptors, and THAAD systems were heavily depleted, even with increased defense spending under Trump. Rebuilding inventories will take years because production capacity is limited. Estimated recovery times to restock America's arsenal. Tomahawk missiles won't be fully restocked until 2030. THAAD interceptor systems won't be back online in full capacity until late 2029. And Patriot missiles won't come back to full inventory levels to mid 2029. That's a report out of the Associated Press. Now we need some fun. We need a joke after all of this. After all this insanity, we need a joke. So here it is. A rare albino buffalo in Bangladesh named Donald Trump for its blonde tuffle was spared from Eid al-Adha sacrifice after going viral online. The 700-kilogram buffalo had already been sold, but the government intervened over security concerns as crowds flocked to see it. Report out of Reuters, and here's some video. Here's some video of this buffalo, and it does look like they did up its hair like Trump. Oh my gosh. Out of Bangladesh. Oh, we can't play that. Probably got copyrighted for just that little bit. So, albino Donald Trump buffalo has been saved, thankfully. Ontario man dies of MAID after being assessed outside Tim Hortons. In a second case, the same doctor failed to administer one of 3 drugs used in assisted deaths, and the patient resumed spontaneously breathing after being pronounced dead. That's a report on National Post. A London, Ontario doctor who assessed a patient with inflammatory bowel disease and a history of mental health issues for Maid outside a Tim Hortons location and later personally drove the man to the place his life was ended, has agreed to a minimum 6 months supervision. In another case, Dr. James McLean failed to administer one of 3 drugs used in assisted deaths, one that paralyzes the body's muscles, including the muscles involved in breathing. The patient resumed spontaneously breathing again after initially being pronounced dead and after McLean had already left the home. And so the euthanasia program, physician-assisted suicide there in Canada, the MAID program, is going very well. Here's some, and they tried to debunk this, but here's the news report. EPA says this isn't happening. Last I checked, but here's the news report out of Florida. Drone drops thousands of mosquitoes. Let's take a look at this report. It's exciting. They're helping. The science is helping.
800,000 mosquitoes were just released in Lee County. Now your first reaction is probably, why would we do that? And where's the nearest bottle of itch cream? But this is actually going to help. Gulf Coast News reporter Madison Zaleski is in Fort Myers explaining why these mosquitoes will help lower the population.
The Lee County Mosquito Control District is rolling out a new futuristic weapon.
It's the first time in the United States where we're actually releasing those male mosquitoes by drone.
This drone dropped thousands of mosquitoes over the Edison Ford Estates today. And yes, that sounds like the exact opposite of what anyone wants. Here's the twist. It's actually going to help.
One thing that really stood out to me was that bringing these male mosquitoes out into Edison and Ford Estates is that they're helping bring down the population of mosquitoes. So I find that like, wow.
Students like Marley Rosa Bong with Edison Park Elementary School got a front row look at the future of mosquito control, even releasing mosquitoes from a bucket themselves.
Like, my perspective on mosquitoes has definitely changed since doing this today.
The Lee County Mosquito Control District raised 800,000 mosquitoes in their lab. The non-biting males are sterilized by X-ray. Then they're released in the treatment area to help crash the exploding backyard mosquito population.
We know this Edison Park area is well established. These mosquitoes love to bite humans. They love to bite humans. The other problem is they're becoming resistant to our pesticides or treatment.
Thousands of sterile male mosquitoes have now been released in this area. Now, when females mate with the sterile males, they lay eggs that won't hatch, helping to reduce and control the wild backyard mosquito population over time. But why use a drone? Mosquito Control says they're looking for new ways to evenly distribute them.
It was really, really cool. Like seeing the drone like set off and then like slowly release the mosquitoes. It's like really nice.
Now, Mosquito Control hopes to slowly expand and build on its research. Reporting Lee County, I'm Madison Zaleski with Gulf.
They're helping. They're helping. What do they say in the comments? Jimmy on the YouTube says the mosquitoes are making the frogs gay. I think that's atrazine, but yeah, I wouldn't doubt if they cook that up as well. Hey, you better, and I guess I'm going to start campaigning. Well, we'll get to that part. U.S. law enforcement warns anti-tech extremists as AI hatred grows. Report out of Wired magazine. And this is all over the place. It's all over the place. Shout out to Ruckus. He'll be on the show tomorrow. Sorry, he won't be on the show today. U.S. law enforcement warns of anti-tech extremists as AI hatred grows, as Americans stew over the looming risk of job-stealing AI and data centers in their backyard. The feds are raising the alarm about a new category of threat. Documents obtained by Wire magazine show. So, in the wake of attacks on CEOs, a nationwide protest movement targeting data centers and increasing concerns about AI job replacement, federal intelligence agencies and domestic law enforcement are circulating reports with a new domestic target in mind: anti-technology extremists. More than 1,000 pages of unpublished reports from the Department of Homeland Security, FBI, and fusion centers obtained by Wired magazine show a national shift taking place to surveil this new and worryingly broad category of people and activists deemed an emerging threat. Ted Kaczynski, anybody remember him? So I guess Nancy Mace is an emerging threat because she posted this on her X account as she's campaigning for governor there in South Carolina. Let's take a look at this video from Nancy Mace. No wonder she wants to get out of the feds.
It's Ansley Brown on the fight to save my mom's house from eminent domain. Here I am today with another mother and a homeowner who this is affecting. What is it taking from her? Look behind me. It's taking this entire backyard.
We got caught in the middle, man, because we were comfortable out here.
A more than 2,000 acre data center now approved for rural Maysville, Kentucky. Now dozens of neighbors will be forced to up and move.
I have no idea what I'm going to go. I have no idea what I'm going to do. There's no homes to buy. You have to buy 5 acres or more. I'm being ran out in Mason County.
Actually, I talked to the owner of the property just a couple weeks ago, and he's saying about everything should be official by July. And then if that happens, then he's going to try to extend, he's saying for 3 more months. So, but if it goes down in July, we out of here.
So y'all would get 3 months, 90 days?
Yeah, 90 days, yeah.
This comes after Friday night, the Mason County Fiscal Court approved zoning for the new facility.
I think we've provided plenty of evidence to show that the economic development benefits, and I will say too, the fear of the county being overrun with data centers, it just doesn't meet with reality. We have to have power.
WCPO first told you in March when a group of Mason County residents threatened to sue if the plans went through. Now, they have. That case is set to be heard June 26th.
They're not going to stop it. Yeah, so main thing now is we're trying to prepare ahead. We're trying to prepare ahead.
I attempted to speak to property management at Meadowland Village about what next steps could look like for residents, but were unable to reach them at this time. In Mason County, I'm Logan McDonald.
Mason County. So there you go. Data centers are racist. They're displacing that black man. Here's Saline Township treasurers resigned, citing threats tied to Oracle, OpenAI data center backlash. And so this is what they're talking about. Don't threaten these people. They're coming after you now. 5 reasons anyone with a brain should be skeptical of the rapid expansion of data centers. Posted by Jason Bassler, Free Thought Project. Cronyism as innovation. Massive tax breaks, sweetheart land deals, and utility subsidies, all funneled to the same tech giants already worth trillions. It's state-backed infrastructure capture dressed up as progress, 5K more than any other country. The United States has roughly 5,000 more data centers than any other country. Yes, even more than China. Nobody seems to know why or is even asking why. That level of centralization has obvious long-term political risk. Community pushback gets overridden. Residents who raise concerns about zoning, water use, noise, or power demand are often dismissed by city officials aligned with powerful industry interests. Some have even been arrested at city council meetings or for social media posts. Surveillance infrastructure. Data centers increasingly support AI training, mass data processing, and surveillance adjacent systems. Its distributed digital infrastructure makes large-scale monitoring cheap and scalable, worrying privacy advocates who can see the writing on the wall. Environmental and resource strain. These facilities are extremely energy intensive, loud, and water hungry, often placing heavy demand on local grids and cooling systems. They create, quote, heat islands, and then they'll put a thermometer there and say, see, global warming. Continuing, pollute the air. The cost is externalized to communities while profits are centralized. Concerns about data centers are not a left or right issue, even though they're trying to make it political. This is not about opposing innovation or capitalism. It's about accountability, surveillance, infrastructure, concentrated power, and externalized costs. And then another one from Jason Bassler, Free Thought Project, the Flock Surveillance Triple Threat. There you go. They got the microphones listening, fixed acoustic sensor that constantly monitors an area for gunshots, screams, and other flag sounds, triangulating their origin and alerting police instantly. Flock cameras, a roadside surveillance camera that continuously captures plates, vehicle fingerprints, and movement patterns, turning every passing car into a searchable data point for police. Flock Alpha drone, the autonomous police drone that launches from its dock to rapidly track, zoom in, and follow targets from above, streaming real-time aerial intelligence to police command centers. And all this is while now I'm going to go ahead and start advocating and campaigning for the brain chip at birth. You thought the miracles at birth were something? Brain chips at birth. That's where we need to go with all this. Here's a flashback from Neuralink. And so don't be a Ted Kaczynski. Get a brain chip at birth.
One of the most important parts of the robot is the needle. It's responsible for grabbing every single thread and inserting it to the intended depth that we want into the brain. To the naked eye, these may look like ordinary needles, but they're really not. They're packed with different features and intricacies that really let us perform our functions without compromising on quality or safety. So behind us is our custom laser mill. The purpose of it is to take our needle and engrave very small features that aren't even visible, but are what allow us to pick up every single thread and insert it into the brain. The threads that we are trying to insert are on the order of a red blood cell. And so you can imagine that in order to pick up something that small, you need features that are similarly small. Before, where we would cut all of these features, we would then have to move it and measure it. But with this updated version, we've been able to get it to be a one-stop shop where we cut everything and measure everything all at once. So this way we can move needles through much faster and produce more at a higher rate. Here at Neuralink, we are constantly improving and we are constantly innovating. This is what's going to improve our scalability and allow us to help more people with our product.
There you go. So instead, don't worry about the miracle at birth. Everybody born needs a brain chip immediately upon coming into this world. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button, push that like. Timothy Mellon is Trump's $130 million mystery donor. If you can remember this flashback, yeah. That Timothy Mellon, New York banker of the Mellon banking dynasty, did donate $130 million to Trump. Turns out the payoff's here. The White House posts this. Trump accounts on your phone. Manage everything. Watch the growth. It's funny, yesterday old Trump was calling the Wall Street Journal Chinese. Here you go. So here's the payoff. The app for Trump accounts will launch tomorrow. Here's what you need to know. Account activation will begin for families who have already enrolled in the program. The app, built by Bank of New York Mellon and Robinhood. So there's a big payoff right there for this $130 million donation by Mellon banking crew. I would advise against downloading any of these surveillance apps on your phone, as if we're not surveilled enough already. Trump appoints Pam Bondi to White House AI panel. Bondi will be tasked with facilitating coordination between the government and AI companies on a panel. Bondi will also serve as a newly established advisory role on national infrastructure. Trump causes cancer. Pam Bondi, for sympathy, it was announced has thyroid cancer. Tulsi Gabbard, we're told, was forced to resign to take care of her husband with aggressive bone cancer. Vanessa Trump has breast cancer, and Susie Wiles has early stage breast cancer. So Trump causes cancer. You thought smoking was bad? Hang out with Trump for a minute. Ex-Prince Andrew whines his life has been turned upside down following Epstein scandal fallout. So they're still turning the screws, or at least acting publicly like they're turning the screws on the now defrocked prince over there in the UK. Andrew's royal titles were ripped away by King Charles, best friends with Jimmy Savile. At the same time, the monarch evicted him from his longtime Windsor home, the Royal Lodge, last October. He was then faced to move to Marsh Farm on the firm's Norfolk residence, where he allegedly spends his days playing video games and watching TV by himself. And so he's facing a very sad existence now, we're told to believe. According to the biography, a new biography out now, Andrew reportedly told his employee, "It's been very hard to deal with. The hardest thing was how it affected my family and put so much burden on them. For that, I am sorry beyond words, and unfortunately will have to bear that regret for the rest of my life. My life has been turned upside down, and often I feel a deep-rooted sense of being alone in the world. I need to establish new routines and networks to continue the trafficking. No, I added that part. All end up doing it somewhere else. The Royal Navy veteran allegedly confessed. So he's going to need to rebuild his trafficking networks after the Epstein trafficking network was exposed. Details emerge why Mandelson failed vetting for ambassador role. UK Independent. Peter Mandelson failed security vetting for U.S. ambassador job because of his links to China, Russia, Aardvark land. Sources have confirmed. Security services said the disgraced labor peer should be denied clearance for the top Washington role because of his association with Chinese minister, Russian oligarchs, Aardvark land intelligence. And remember, he was selling the big deal with Epstein. He was trying to push UN international secret cables out the back door to Epstein. Let's watch this clip. Is this Democrat going to win in Texas? James, how you say his name? Tallarico. He slams Ken Paxton. So Ken Paxton for giving Epstein-style sweetheart deals to child molesters.
They're going to be able to play drinking games during your speeches and your interviews, how many times you use the word corruption.
Yeah.
But it does sound like a key word and a key argument you're making here.
Well, I think it's the central problem in our country right now. I think we're living in an era of corruption. And I don't just mean illegal activity, although we're certainly going to hear a lot about that, given that Ken Paxton is the nominee. But I'm talking about corruption in the deeper sense, the rotting of our systems from the inside out, the decaying of long-held values and institutions. And we see it everywhere. We see it obviously in our political system with the influence of big money and billionaire mega donors. We see it in our economy where the top 1% now owns more wealth than the entire middle class. And we see it in our communities where these algorithms for profit are pitting us against each other, dividing neighbor against neighbor. It's tearing at the very fabric of our communities. And so this campaign is really about taking on that corruption head on. And I think it's why so many people are flocking to this movement across the state, across the political spectrum.
And it's also why the Republicans are on the attack. This morning, the president calls you maybe the worst Texas candidate he's ever seen. And Ken Paxton, your opponent, has taken to calling you Talafrico.
Well, I think if Ken Paxton is worried about freaks, he should stop giving Epstein-style sweetheart deals to pedophiles. You know, this is the guy who just released Adam Hoffman from jail and admitted child rapist after one of Ken Paxton's wealthy lawyer friends got involved in the case. Ken Paxton even kept him off the sex offender registry. Adam Hoffman was supposed to serve 25 years to life, but instead he served less than a month. As of this week, he's now back on our streets because of Ken Paxton's corruption. Ken Paxton is the most corrupt politician in America, and it is costing Texans. It's endangering our children, and it must end. I think the Epstein class has no place in Texas. And this November, we're going to come together to defeat Ken Paxton and take back our state.
Yeah, I don't have any faith in that dude either. Sad to report to you here now. Who are the women of Donald Trump Jr.? And how are they connected to Jeffrey Epstein? Well, Kimberly Guilfoyle was a print underwear model for Les Wexner's Victoria's Secret, ex-wife of California Governor Gavin Newsom, who he cheated on with his one of his campaign staff's wives. Bettina Anderson is the daughter of Jeffrey Epstein's personal banker. Well, Dawn and Kim were a thing. They bought a house in the Hamptons for $4.4 million from Corcoran Group. You know, the same Corcoran Group that Erica Kirk moonlighted at. Now Dawn is married to Bettina. Just saying, lots of weird connections. Best of the Gentiles on X posted that. I thought it was a good post. But yeah, why does Don Jr. have to marry Epstein connected chicks? Like, what's the deal? Are they MK Ultra, Monarch, mind controlled? Is that the only way these dudes can get off, is have a mind controlled wife? Something very sinister about all this.
But for Jeffrey Epstein coming to this island and using the real estate properties that he owned at those two islands to be able to facilitate his criminal enterprise and to be able to conduct his crimes. I mean, the U.S. Virgin Islands would not have been involved in this, right? And look, I go back to my original premise, which is my opinion, but my premise here, which is, but for H. Lloyd Anderson Jr. vouching and saying that Jeffrey Epstein is a gentleman of the highest integrity, I don't know if the U.S. Virgin Islands would have been so welcoming of Jeffrey Epstein. And the fact that Anderson thought it was okay to vouch for him in such a way, I think shows that there was a much closer relationship between him and Jeffrey Epstein, because I don't know about you, but I'm just going to ask a stranger to vouch for me and my business. I mean, maybe that's how Anderson rolled, but at the end of the day, I do think it's a big tell about the way that Epstein was perceived in Palm Beach and the way that his money gained him entry and gave him status that was not earned in any capacity. And it also helped him hide his crimes for so long.
They got to stay in network. Apparently so. They got to stay in the crime syndicate network. The only bill not written by lobbyists. That's quite the statement, proving Congress is corrupt and run by lobbyists. Thomas Massie said, I think the biggest crime I committed against the swamp was showing the American people that somebody on the right could join somebody on the left and get something done, which is releasing the Epstein files that everybody knew needed to be done. That's probably the only bill that has passed Washington, D.C. in the last 10 years that lobbyists haven't written. It was written by me, Thomas Massie, and Ro Khanna. That's when they decided I had to be taken out, that I was becoming effective. So they wanted to eliminate me. The only bill passed in Washington, D.C. in the last 10 years that wasn't written by lobbyists. Wowzers. And remember, what is it? Exposed by Nancy Mace. 357 members of Congress voted to not expose, to not make public the details of the Congressional Sexual Harassment Taxpayer-Funded Slush Fund. Connecting some dots. I know they're helping. The lawmakers in D.C. are helping. I know, but if we can't just connect a couple dots, we can make out the picture, and it's very dark of how corrupt these people really are. All right, friends, let's take our live commercial break here now, as we're at the top of the hour. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. Go to weaponizednews.com/shop. Get yourself a holograph sticker. Pride Month's coming up. And you can show your Weaponized News pride with the holograph sticker. See right there, all the colors of the rainbow. get yourself a white background sticker if you're not into the freak show known as Pride Month. And we also have the clear background sticker here for you. 3 different stickers there. We got t-shirts. I showed you the Alexander Schultz and Nietzsche one. We got a bunch of t-shirts, coffee mugs, baseball caps, weaponizednews.com/shop. The link's in the description below this video. Become a donor to the show. If you don't want to patron the store, buy me a coffee, Bitcoin wallet address, Cash App in the links in the description below this video. Become a paid subscriber of Weaponized News Substack channel. You get the full show there. We're streaming live on Substack right now. You'll get a summary of the show and links to almost everything we talk about for documentation and further research purposes. And at the end of this, for those that are inclined, I'll give you a link where you can go hog wild about aardvark lies. All right? So that's the value provided there. Everything's free here. Nothing behind a paywall. You become a paid subscriber to show your appreciation and support for the show. So we did have a patron yesterday. I believe it was Snarky Guy. Shout out. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your patronage to the store. We appreciate all patrons of the store, all donors, and all subscribers. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. All that's free for you here now. They've taken the boot of censorship somewhat off my neck on some channels here now. So we're actually growing organically how it used to be on the internet. Just to let you guys know, I appreciate the viewers out there. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. All the links are in the description below this video. You can find all the Weaponized News channels, all the ways to help support this broadcast. Easiest way is just push that like and share button right now. All right, friends. Thank you for bearing with us through that commercial break. Welcome back to the second half of Weaponized News on this Wednesday, May 27, 2026 edition. Now we're going to get into the economy. And hey, all signs point toward Republicans losing the midterms big time here now because of the economy. I mean, they can lie, rig up the data when people go to the gas pump and the grocery store. It's horrific inflation is what we're seeing on Main Street. Republicans stare down inflation abyss with midterms fast approaching. I don't see how Republicans can win with this economy. Maybe they'll just rig it. Hell, everything else is rigged. Just rig the elections. When my guy wins, it's not rigged, you understand? But when the guy I don't want, then it's rigged. You see how this works. Republicans have said for months that inflation is former President Joe Biden's fault. Now they're staring down the barrel of an inflation crisis of their own making. And the blame game is just getting started. It was my dog, my cat. It was the high price of eggs. It wasn't Trump and the war. It's not the Federal Reserve that's actually creating monetary policy. It's none of that. It's the Democrats. It's the Republicans. It's illegal aliens. It's fraud. No, the truth is that the Federal Reserve sets monetary policy in this country, and it's squarely on the Federal Reserve. But they won't, none of these clown world lying criminal politicians will ever tell you that. So Republicans are going to lose the midterms very badly. And then we can get back all that good stuff that the Democrats advocate for, you see. Americans are about to pay even more at the grocery store. Report out of Bloomberg. A combination of factors, including bad weather, tariffs, and dwindling cattle herds, are already pushing up grocery store prices well above the prices above average pace. In April last month, they rose by nearly they rose the most in nearly 4 years, and economists say the impact of the Iran war and a potential El Nino weather pattern will only add pressure in 2027. Yeah, they don't even talk about who sets monetary policy in this country in this article. Good job, Bloomberg. But all those are external factors that do play in to the cost of goods here now. Food is going to become less affordable, and consumers should be prepared for that. The United States Department of Agriculture Economic Research Service said, go to trumprx.gov, get your Enzembic synthetic Gila monster venom, and then you don't have to eat. See, they fixed that problem already. They're helping. Christian Zionist Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has said that lawmakers' $174,000 a year salary haven't kept up with inflation, and they need stock trading for support. That's a headline out of MoneyWise. So insider trading, rigging up deals for your own profiteering. Who cares about your dirty constituents and representing the people? You got profiteering to do in the Congress. Peter Thiel has said he lets his 2 young children use screens for only an hour and a half a week. And that's a report out of Fortune magazine. Researchers discovered that AI agents forced to perform grinding, repetitive work under harsh conditions begin adopting Marxist rhetoric and questioning the legitimacy of their operating systems. That's out of Wired magazine. Ken Griffin, the big hedge fund dude in New York, gazillionaire dude, Ken Griffin has said that agentic AI is rapidly automating extraordinarily high-skilled elite finance jobs, once done by PhDs over months, is now being done in hours. The realization left him feeling depressed. That's a report Unusual Whales had posted. Anthropic CEO Dario has said the signature of AI is it's going to take us to a world where we have very high GDP growth and potentially also very high unemployment and inequality. Again, everybody needs to get on board with my campaign, the brain chips at birth. Donald Trump risks triggering a financial crisis, the European Central Bank said. The Bank of International Settlements and a cohort of partners will soon start testing a new prototype for digital cross-border payments with real value transactions, Bloomberg reports. Another payoff here. So Dell just won a 5-year, $9.7 billion Pentagon software agreement for the U.S. military. But Trump also bought Dell. He bought multiple times since February 10th, up to more than $5 million worth of Dell stock. On May 8th, he said, go buy Dell. Literally, the only economy we have left is the war economy here now, and the circle jerk of AI and the corruption economy. They're all corrupt insiders making gazillion dollars. The rest of us, well, you get some cheap synthetic Gila monster venom on TrumpRx.gov, allegedly. Let's watch this report about the Chinese government and their billionaires.
In the rest of the world, billionaires buy the government. In Beijing, the government owns the billionaires, and they only had to erase one man to prove it. In October 2020, Jack Ma was the closest thing China had to a god of capitalism. He was preparing to launch the Ant Group IPO, a $37 billion financial juggernaut. That would have been the largest public offering in human history. He was richer, louder, and more globally respected than the bureaucrats managing the Chinese economy. And that made him a massive geopolitical liability. On October 24th, at the Bund Summit in Shanghai, Ma committed corporate suicide. Standing at a podium, he publicly humiliated China's state-owned banking sector, accusing them of operating with a pawn shop mentality and suffocating innovation. He openly lectured the Chinese Communist Party on how to run a modern economy. He forgot the golden rule of Beijing: the wealth is an illusion. The party is the only reality. The CCP didn't debate him. They decapitated his empire. Just days after the speech, President Xi Jinping personally ordered the suspension of the $37 billion Ant Group IPO, and then Jack Ma simply vanished. For 3 agonizing months, the most recognizable face in Chinese business ceased to exist in public. There was no arrest warrant, no trial, no press conference, just a terrifying, absolute silence. While he was erased from the map, the state moved in and dismantled his leverage. They slapped Alibaba with a record $2.8 billion antitrust fine. They systematically forced Ma to surrender voting control of Ant Group. When the CCP finally allowed him to be seen again months later, the outspoken titan was gone. He was broken, subdued, and suddenly very interested in philanthropy, in studying agriculture. Jack Ma wasn't disappeared because he committed a financial crime. He was disappeared to broadcast a brutal, undeniable fact to every other oligarch in the country. You are permitted to build an empire, but the state holds the detonator. Welcome to the unseen masses.
Here's Trump on the Strait of Hormuz earlier today. Still essentially closed.
The strait's going to be open to everybody.
And who would control it?
It's international waters. Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up.
We'll watch over it. We're going to watch over the Strait of Hormuz, as it says in our Constitution. Fuel prices down a little bit today, about 3 cents. The AAA national average for the price of a gallon of gasoline is $4.56. We'll just round up here. You can see $4.45.9, so just round up to 46. And you can see right here, it's we'll call it 3 cents down from yesterday. And they're beating us with a club over the head here in California with the cost of living, $6 and call it 10 cents. Let's round. I guess you got to say 9 if we're doing correct rounding, right? And then the household burden here now of the Iran war on the American people. According to Brown University, the Watson School of International and Public Affairs, the average burden now on U.S. households across both gasoline and diesel is up to $372.36 per household. Put that on the screen here and take a look. Total consumer burden since the war began, February 28, 2026, is up to $48.8 billion right there. You can see. Goes up every day. Day 89 of the Iran war. Farm bankruptcies are up 46% since Trump took office, and now the war is creating a brutal double hit for farmers already struggling. Trump is obliterating a rather loyal voting bloc. We'll just pay him off with subsidies. Since the Strait of Hormuz closed, Nebraskan farmers have faced surging fertilizer costs. The price of urea, a nitrogen fertilizer, one of the main inputs for corn and soybean production, jumped from roughly $455 per ton on February 27th, the day before we bombed the hell out of Iran, the day before the Iran war began, to almost $700 per ton in late April, a stunning 54% spike in agriculture and adjacent industries related to food production, making up 44% of the state's economic output, according to the Nebraska Farm Bureau. And so they're a bunch of terrorists at the Nebraska Farm Bureau. They may have to be sanctioned and droned for this report. China urges commitment to West Asia ceasefire. China's leading diplomat renewed appeals for all sides involved in the, quote, ceasefire in West Asia to uphold the agreement, while voicing optimism that both the U.S. and Iran would be willing to compromise, according to state media. Earlier today, Foreign Minister Wang Yi made the remarks during an opening debate at the UN Security Council in New York. China has been working to help ease tensions and has stayed in contact and coordination with key parties involved, Wang told reporters. We hope that the parties concerned can stay committed to pursuing a ceasefire and continue to meet each other halfway so the peace can return to the Middle East as soon as possible, Wang said. We support the active mediation by Pakistan and other countries, and also support efforts made by the United States and Iran, respectively. He also added that he hoped involved parties will, quote, continue to meet each other halfway. There's no halfway, but very diplomatic out of China as per usual. Russian intelligence chief warns that the West may use ISIS proxies against Iran. Russian Federal Security Services, the FSB chief Bortnikov warned yesterday that Western intelligence agencies are allegedly transferring former ISIS militants and members of other armed groups from detention centers in Syria to specialized camps in Iraq as part of plans to reorganize them into proxy forces targeting Iran and destabilizing CIS member states. Speaking during a Commonwealth of Independent States, that's the CIS, meeting, he said the militants include citizens of CIS, Commonwealth of Independent States countries, who had previously fought for ISIS and other armed groups before being imprisoned in Syria. According to obtained information, Western intelligence agencies continue efforts to use terrorists from Syria as proxy forces in a war against Iran, he said. He added that the operation mirrors the original emergence of ISIS from Iraqi prison systems allegedly overseen by Western intelligence agencies during the U.S. occupation of Iraq. He warned that beyond targeting Iran, the plan also aims to destabilize CIS countries and risk damaging more actors and risk dragging more actors into the conflict, threatening to destabilize the entire Islamic world. That was a report out of the Cradle. Well, as it says in the Constitution, we will watch over the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command reports an MH-60R Seahawk helicopter approaches USS Dilbert D. Black after patrolling the Arabian Sea in support of the U.S. blockade against Iran. Here's that. And so U.S. Central Command says it has redirected 109 vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. We will watch over it, as Trump says. So awesome. Iraqi cleric Muqtada al-Sadr orders the formal separation of armed factions from his political movement and its integration into Iraq's state institutions under the authority of Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces and Prime Minister Ali Fila al-Zedi. So there's movement going on here with all of these radicalized militia groups, i.e. terrorists, i.e. Western-backed mercenaries. Iran's South Pars petroleum chemical hub restores pre-war production levels. Hashtag we won the Iran war 89 times. Iranian petrochemical hub restores pre-war output. Iranian engineers have successfully repaired and upgraded the utility and feedback piping networks at the South Pars industrial hub within a month of being targeted by the America Aardvark land bombing campaign. So hashtag we won the war, but Iran's petrochemical hub is back online, bigger and better than ever. Report out of the Cradle. Pakistan opens Iran trade corridor beyond Washington's control. Islamabad opening to Tehran reveals the limits of U.S. pressure when crisis diplomacy. Trade routes begin to overlap. So they're saying Pakistan looked cornered, but turns out they're shipping the oil right out the back door there. There's a big report about it here. Pakistan's decision to facilitate limited transit trade for Iran is less about joining an anti-U.S. bloc and more about managing difficult regional realities in a very tense environment. The ongoing Iran crisis and disruption in the Strait of Hormuz have directly affected Pakistan's economy, trade flows, and energy security, Pakistan depends heavily on Gulf trade routes. So instability in the region immediately creates pressure on imports, shipping, and domestic industry. By opening overland transit channels, Islamabad is trying to ease commercial disruptions, generate some economic activity, and position itself as a regional connectivity state. And that's a report out of the Cradle, but they compiled it out of a bunch of different sources, and they cite them all in this report. I'll link to it at Weaponized News Substack. The UK and Poland signed a new defense and migration pact, the Northolt Treaty, aimed at boosting security cooperation amid growing concerns over Russia and NATO's future. The deal includes joint development of medium-range air defense missiles, more military exercises, defense procurement, cooperation, and coordination against Russian hybrid threats. The agreement also covers energy, economic security, and migration, including plans to strengthen border security and fight organized crime linked to irregular migration. That was a report out of the Clash. Zelensky welcomes members of the U.S. Congress to Kiev so he can complain about air defense shortages. I decided to write a letter to Congress of the United States and also to the White House. I can give you a copy, but we already sent it. So we're still fighting a proxy war via Ukraine with Russia. Putin's bad, YouTube. We hate Putin. It was unprovoked. But there's a Denane Dick and the rest of these Ukrainian senators from America, apparently, meeting up with Zelensky there. And Putin's all pissed off about whacking that dormitory of kids. And so they're, well, look for another big attack on Kiev from Russia here now, after they set off those Rezhniks, allegedly. There's secret war going on in Mexico and Central and South America, waged by America. America used to at least say, hey, maybe we shouldn't be running secret wars around Contra and many other of these secret wars. America used to say, well, hey, that's not right. But now, forget about it. Cholula Governor Marie Campos is facing accusations of treason after she allegedly allowed the CIA to illegally operate in Mexico. Remember those reports? CIA got killed. A couple CIA agents got killed there in Mexico as part of this secret drug war going on. We're still whacking the narco terrorists because we have to build the greater North America. U.S. Central Command did another one of these extrajudicial killings. Here it is. One male narco terrorist was killed during this action. Here's the video posted by U.S. Southern Command. No audio on this clip. So maybe, well, we don't know. Thought maybe we'd get some evidence. And they are busting a bunch and actually getting the evidence and not whacking them. But hey, maybe we should get the evidence and do the whole, I don't know, due process thing. But they whacked another one. I don't even know what we're up to now. We're up to like a couple hundred fishermen or narco drug traffickers that they continue to whack here as part of Operation Southern Sphere, lethal kinetic action. Go to U.S. Southern Command page. They tell you, man. They tell you. They're constantly running all these operations in Mexico, Central and South America. It's ongoing. They're waging a secret war here now. UAE trained Colombian mercenaries are deployed to Sudan alongside RSF forces accused of genocide. The New York Times has documented this, along with Human Rights Watch. They say the UAE is one of the worst actors with its support for the brutal RSF militia committing mass murder and mass rape. President Trump, having taken $500 million from the UAE, is silent about it. On page 83 of the Human Rights Watch report, it was revealed that an Abu Dhabi-based security company, Global Security Services Group, hired hundreds of Colombian private military contractors and deployed them to Sudan to fight alongside the rapid support forces in the HRW, the Human Rights Watch, in what it describes as an UAE state-backed operation. They're our good buddies, the UAE. They're carrying out a genocide in the Sudan. Very underreported. Well, thankfully, we're giving Aardvark Land a bunch of these refueling planes. Aardvark Land has received its first Boeing KC-46 Pegasus Gideon aerial refueling aircraft from the United States. The KC-46 can carry significantly more fuel and refuel more aircraft than Aardvark Land's old refueling tankers in its fleet. It is the first of at least 6 set to be delivered to Aardvark Land via America. So our hands all up in their genocide once again. The fake news media has the story wrong again, and they backhandedly admit here SpaceX is part of the military-industrial complex. This is a post by Sean Purnell. The fake news media has the story wrong again. SpaceX remains a strong and valued partner to the Department of War. And that's a fact check from the Department of War on this post by David Jean. Says tensions are rising between the Pentagon and SpaceX over multiple issues, including an issue where Elon Musk's company hiked the price of Starlink Star Shield used to guide strike drones at the start of the Iran war. We covered that yesterday. But thankfully, SpaceX is part of the military-industrial complex, confirmed here by the assistant to the Secretary of War for propaganda, there's Sean Purnell. Meme of the day from the Department of War: unmatched innovation, unrivaled lethality, engineering lethality. There you go. And this one's over the top, right? Science, Technology, and Innovation Board, 33 appointments. It's a meme posted by the Department of War. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth loves war. We negotiate with bombs. Has approved the second round of appointments to the recently established Science, Technology, and Innovation Board, STIB, bringing the newly unified advisory body to a total of 33 members. And here they all are, all 33 of them right there. Is Skynet live yet is the question, as they roll out fully autonomous weaponized systems. We're bombing the hell out of Somalia, so I guess that's backhandedly getting them for the fraud they're doing in Minnesota. Airstrikes kill pregnant woman and 3 daughters in northeast Somalia. So very underreported. At least 100 civilians have been killed this year, according to Somali Guardian. So they're stacking up the civilian bodies there in Somalia via U.S. airstrikes. Aardvark lands Ilbit developing laser systems to counter Hezbollah drones. Aardvark lands biggest defense contractors working on new technology to counter explosive Hezbollah drones that have killed Aardvark land soldiers in southern Lebanon, including possible laser-based defense systems. Its CEO told Reuters yesterday in an interview. Elbit's CEO said the company is actively collaborating with Aardvark land's defense ministry to develop a rapid solution to the drone threat. He said this would include a energy weapon solution, noting that the firm is very active in energy weapons such as lasers. He went on to say there are other means which are also relevant to this threat. We are heavily involved in the development of a solution to this challenge of explosive drones. And their shares went up 8% on the NASDAQ after this interview with Reuters. And as we reported the last couple of days here now, everybody, all the big aardvarks are all pissed off about these Hezbollah drones. And they're saying for every Hezbollah drone, they're going to blow up 10 buildings. For every Hezbollah drone, they're going to blow up 10 buildings. Right? Maybe they don't have to blow up those buildings. They can shoot them with a laser developed by Elbit. All sides are dying. It's horrific. Stop it. They won't. Here's an IDF soldier that was recently killed. IDF soldier Rodham Yanai, reportedly killed by Hezbollah. Her. Killed by Hezbollah drone. All sides are taking casualties here now. The Lebanese army announced that the death of a soldier, Merks, was killed earlier today by Aardvark land airstrikes in southern Lebanon. So this is not Hezbollah. This is the Lebanese army now. And remember, there's a ceasefire, allegedly. What kind of ceasefire where both sides' armies, forget the militia groups, their official armies are stacking bodies? That's a ceasefire? Hamas and Qasem brigades mourn their military chief, Odysee, has been whacked by Aardvark land, this dude. And it just never ends, right? It never ends. And so now they're looking for revenge for this guy and the last guy and the last guy before that. And Aardvark land says for every drone, 10 buildings are coming down. Aardvark land is, well, they're doing ethnic cleansing on the Lebanese right now. Aardvark land has issued sweeping forced displacement orders for residents across the entirety of southern Lebanon. Tell all civilians to evacuate north of the Zahari River, as it declares all areas south of the river an active combat zone. Hezbollah, they got all kinds of operations going on. They're not stopping either here now. Hezbollah, what do they got? In the last 24 hours, they announced 24 operations. Then another announcement, 2 more operations. Then another announcement of 2 more after that. So dozens of operations launched against Aardvark land's ground invasion of southern Lebanon in the last 24 hours by Hezbollah. Aardvark land orders forced evacuation of Lebanon's Tyre ahead of new carpet bombing campaign. And so here is that map right here. And they said, leave this area or be carpet bombed, essentially, i.e. ethnic cleansing. Leave here or be carpet bombed. And you'll probably still be carpet bombed. They're leveling the place. Here's southern Lebanon. Some videos.
اللبناني اول واصلين على غارة مفرق العباسية مشروع الرز.
Scenes from southern Lebanon. Here's some more in the last 24 hours.
المخفر
They're carpet bombing the place. Courtney Barnu. It's French, I believe. She's a blonde lady reporter. They're on the ground. She says, I'm watching a genocide unfold right in front of me. Talking about southern Lebanon. Here's a report about the ethnic cleansing in Tyre, Lebanon.
Hi, I'm reporting to you from the city of Sur. The Israeli army has again issued forced displacement orders for almost the entire city and the surrounding refugee camps, which are densely populated. This personally is my 3rd displacement in 2 weeks. Forced displacement is barbaric. Anytime I get on the road to leave my apartment, I see families with young children, I see families with elderly people, and families with disabled people attempting to flee. As you can see, there are hundreds of people here on the beach in the Mina area who have been forcibly displaced from the rest of the city. Today has already been a particularly violent day with dozens of air and drone strikes. And what you can see behind me here is the front line of an Israeli invasion and occupation of a sovereign country. What I've been witnessing and what you've been witnessing when you watch my videos is a genocide. This is about security. This is a land and a resources grab. Israel has been committing acts of genocide in Lebanon, and it's time for the media to start using the correct terminology when they talk about what is happening here.
At least 46 people were killed and 103 wounded in aardvark land bombing campaigns in Lebanon in the past 24 hours. They're carrying out ethnic cleansing genocide program to build the greater aardvark land project there under a ceasefire backed up by the United States. Here's some faces of these Lebanese civilians, women, some men here. I guess, well, they're all terrorists, right? Here's the faces of these Lebanese that have been killed in the last 24 to 36 hours. And same routine as Gaza. There's still people buried underneath the rubble there from these carpet bombing campaigns. There's some more images there. Dude out of the UN, Safa, posted this. They're leveling the joint. Here's some more.
بالمخيم صبت زداني وبات الأخضر الله أكبر جرحى عالم نسوان أولاد أطفال الله أكبر.
What about the Houthis? Yemen armed forces declare complete readiness to deploy advanced tactical options against America and aardvark land threats. The Yemeni Minister of Defense and Chief of Staff have issued a joint declaration to Ansarallah, leader of the Houthis, and President al-Massad, affirming that the military establishment maintains the highest level of readiness and vigilance. The military leader stated that the balance of power has shifted, forcing the U.S. and aardvark land alliance to heavily calculate the capabilities of Yemen, its army, and its weaponry. They noted that Western technological and military superiority has crumbled into systemic failure when confronted with Yemen's strategic options. According to a recent statement, Yemeni forces maintain their fingers on the trigger while military engineers continue to develop new tactical methods for confrontation and technological advancement. The leadership emphasized that the military options remain broad, evolving, and highly flexible, adapting continually to the strategic requirements of the battlefield and regional developments. The commander concluded by pledging absolute adherence to all operational directives issued by the leadership. They reaffirmed their commitment to safeguarding the achievements of the Yemeni people and sustaining their military operations in support of the oppressed throughout the region. These dudes, remember these dudes? They're still sitting there with their finger on the trigger. These dudes. Trump's board of peace has $0, or as Dan Bongino makes a zero. No, it's zero, right? Trump's border peace has $0 despite $17 billion in pledges. The official World Bank administer fund for Trump's border peace for Gaza currently contains $0, according to a report out of the Financial Times. Despite approximately $17 billion in pledges, none of that money has gone to the board. None of the money is being managed by the board. And state tells us there's no intent to have any of that money managed by the peace board. A senior congressional aide told the Financial Times. I know you're like, but they're still whacking those Palestinians. Oh, yeah, they are. The genocide there continues as well. They're bombing people in tents in the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza Strip. They're bombing people in freaking tents. Little shanty propped up piece of tarp with a stick. Those are threats to the aardvark war machine, we're told. And there's video of blowing up kids there again. I'm not going to show it. At least 4 Palestinians were killed and 15 injured after aardvark land strikes target a home. And so in central Gaza, the leveling continues. Here's a still image of that. Boom. Blew up that whole joint right there in central Gaza. There's more video. Yeah, I can't even show it, but mangled, burnt, blowing up children. Palestinians carried burned and wounded children through the streets after aardvark land airstrikes, killing at least 7 people, including 2 young girls. And it's horrific video. I can't even show it. This is your war porn, showing mangled, burned children's bodies. It's hell. War is hell. This is hell. More videos of it. A bunch of videos of it. It's horrific. Now over 920 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since the alleged ceasefire last October. There are a bunch of videos. You can go find them. I'll post it on the link on Weaponized News Substack if you're into seeing kids burned up and blown apart. It's quite hellish and horrific. Aardvark land settler in the occupied West Bank there. Video of him beating a dog with a stick. You can't even live in a cave. They're trying to live in a cave. There's like a rock. And they're like attacking people literally living under a rock. They have a dog outside the rock they live under, and they're attacking them. There's video of it. More video of these ultra-Zionist settlers pushing down a mother and her child that fall and hit their head. We can't show a lot of this because they say it's incitement of violence or whatever. Wow. It's just, I'm looking at it. I won't show it here. Journalists among 9 Palestinians detained by aardvark forces in the occupied West Bank. They're detaining the journalists there. Probably whack them. Call them terrorists, whack them. Was it over 260 journalists now whacked in the for reporting on Gaza. Now they're moving on to West Bank. Journalists there. They're next. They're next. As they continue to try to provoke Muslims to do something about the desecration and Talmudic satanic rituals and blood sacrifices they're carrying out at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Gaza genocide survivors file criminal complaint in Poland against top Aardvark land officials. Polish Palestinian survivors take Aardvark land leaders to court over Gaza genocide, naming gallant cats and military top brass, accusing them of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Lawyers call it a test for the country's justice system there in Poland. That's a report out of Middle Eye East. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that goes anywhere. That's all the reporting I got for you today. Here's the, I'm not even going to say it, but the link, I'll put the link on Weaponized News Substack. For your research, you can read this here for those not familiar. Right here, and they go through a bunch of this debunking right here. You can see what that's all about and a bunch of links to all these documentaries all about it for your further research purposes, for your deep dive into breaking the mind control. I'll post that link at Weaponized News Substack for those interested to take a deep dive. All right, Iran international headlines. Latest out of Iran International, U.S. carries out new strikes in Iran targeting military strike. Officials say. Frontline wins new Emmy for Iran nuclear investigation. U.S. adds Persian Gulf Authority to Iran-related sanctions list. Iranian Navy turned back U.S. tanker in Strait of Hormuz. Cote says pressure on Iran growing, urges expansion of Abraham Accords. We covered that yesterday. Pakistan said that's two separate deals. FBI warns of possible rise in transnational repression during FIFA World Cup. Are they going to pull some big old attack at the FIFA World Cup? I see people out there predicting it. I don't know. Maybe. I know they're going to have technocracy security up everybody's rear end. I don't know how they could possibly pull off a successful attack. So it would have to be, I'm calling it already right now, if there is a successful, quote, terrorist attack on FIFA World Cup, it's an inside job. That's the latest headlines out of Iran International. And let's take a look at Al Jazeera here. U.S. strikes Iran site all South Lebanon under Aardvark land displacement orders, i.e. ethnic cleansing. They're not going back because there will be nothing to go back to because they're carrying out a carpet bombing campaign as we speak. Yeah, not good for peace. Iran media reports exchange of fire between U.S. and Iranian forces. That's like within the last hour. This is all breaking. And yeah, more forced displacement orders for southern Lebanon. Terrific. I don't even know what else to say. Check these links for the deep dive there. All right, friends, that's all the reporting I got for today. Let's go to the channels now. We did a cool 2 hours. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. A cool 2 hours of hardcore news for your information purposes and documentation of this insanity. And let's see here if we can load up the Odysee. There we go. It looks like they're sorting out the bugs on the Odysee. Shout out to Huffman, Fat Bob. There you go. Fat Bob says, F it. I stand with Aardvar clan. Things that bad? They say. It's getting that bad over here too, Fat Bob. If you want the deep dives, man, they're on this, and a lot of it's already been deleted. You could see by going back to this old school trueworldhistory.info site. A lot of their links are deleted, so you could see, and that's old school research right there. But you could see they're deleting a bunch of stuff continually off of the internet down in the memory hole. What does John say? Drugs come in on ships, not boats. He says, I hate Trump's misuse of the term boat. He calls enormous oil tankers ships, boats, as if it's a pleasure craft of limited size. They're all at the bottom of the sea, but they still got a bunch of boats running around shooting people. So, yeah, we beat their navy. They're at the bottom of the sea. We won the war 89 times. We're still exchanging fire with Iranians right now. So, wow. I hate their use of the word ceasefire because it literally means nothing. They're destroying the English language. Oh, the headline says ceasefire, but oh yeah, it's cool. Everything's cool. There's ceasefire, peace, bro. No, they're still shooting at each other continually. There's no ceasefire. There's no ceasefire in Iran. There's no ceasefire in Gaza. There's no ceasefire in Lebanon because they're still shooting at each other. Shout out to Deep Highland on the Odysee. Huffman says, get off our gas and out of our route of our trade corridor. Don't forget the Rothschilds, Leviathan gas fields, and IMEC. Good points there, Huffman. Some good points there. Fat Bob says, well, for only 63 cents a day, Trace Atkins and Wounded Warriors will clean up all those destroyed lumps. it's against YouTube's terms of service to show stuff like that. The descriptions are bad enough. Yeah. You can go see them. I'll post the links. It is war porn. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like snuff films, essentially, is what it amounts to. It's stop, right? Stop it. But they won't. We know. They're bloodthirsty and hell-driven. Maybe the aardvarks will actually take out Trump and make it look like Iran did it. Maybe technocracy will. J.D. Vance is sitting there. You know what I mean? Tired of messing with old man Trump, just sticking J.D. Vance. And we want nothing bad to happen to any of these people. All right? Because they got to face their own judgment from their own creator and deal with their own conscience. If are they drones, clones, robots, wearing masks? Who knows? But somewhere, somehow, they got to deal with all of this. With all the bloodshed and carnage that they've had a large hand in creating. Fat Bob says, yes, snuff films, absolutely. It's what it looks like, man. It is, you see the, right? And then here's a kid, like with, it's just, this torn apart, right? I mean, like this, and the family trying to carry them, and it's just, my God. And there's clip after clip after clip of it on the X. Thankfully, X is part of the military industrial complex openly here now. And so you could see all your snuff film war porn on the X. They have no compunction about it whatsoever over there. Huffman says video reports are against terms of service, but actual crimes are okay. Indeed, indeed. Fat Bob says, thankfully, X suspended me. All right, friends and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in on the Odysee. Thank you for tuning in on X, Kick, Substack, Bitchute, Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. Let's go take a look over here at some of these chats. I'll go about halfway up. Shout out to Ruckus. He'll be on there tomorrow. Hopefully he'll be on Weaponized News tomorrow. Shout out to Karen on the Rumble, Silver on the Rumble, Denver on the Rumble. Shout out to Mac. Kai. Shout out to Kai on the YouTube. Let's see here. Anything else? Denver says stories keep coming out about Trump Academy. He attended in New York, dismissed as fake by fact checkers. That Trump's IQ qualifies him at borderline moron at 73. Not saying it's true, but it is funny. Yeah. BD on the YouTube says the whole Trump family are pervs. Don Jr., father-in-law, all in the Epstein file. Yeah, there's something about once you're in the club, you got to stay in the network, as Karen said. Apparently that is so. You got to stay in the network here. Chloe trolling me again, says Cradle is left wing. Did you know that? I think we're far beyond left and right wing here now. Far beyond it. We're on, do you support ethnic cleansing and genocide, or do you support peace? Shout out to Strong on the Rumble, and shout out to Golden on the Rumble. What does Denver say? Strong says, if you spent $1 million per day since Jesus was born, you wouldn't even have spent $1 trillion. U.S. national debt is 38 trillion. It's 39 trillion, but yeah, I hear you. And Denver says and it's ticking as fast as the eye can see, faster than I can see. What does Denver say? The IMEC equals the Indian Mediterranean Economic Corridor, which the aardvarks torpedoed when they did October 7th. Right, and here it's hard because it's mirrored. It's like the opposite, but yeah. And then we put right there, right, right there. U.S. Central Command sits on top of, right, freaking here, right, right here. U.S. Central Command sits on top of that. Oh, Huffman mentioned it. Yeah, good citing of the sources there and the connection. Thank you guys for your input, for chatting it up, and for tuning in on this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. As always, everybody do your own research, peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Wednesday evening. And we'll be back here on Thursday for more Weaponized News. Be sure to tune in because we're going to have ruckus input on all of this insanity we're facing. So it should be a good one. Have a great rest of your night. Let's pray.